King Review Print Speaking to the Blind, celebrating 40 years of audio newspaper production. Welcome to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times podcast, recorded at the Bishop Briggs Media Centre by our amazing volunteers. You can get in touch with us via Facebook, Twitter or Instagram using @QandReview. That is @ CUEANDREVIEW. You can also contact us directly by emailing information@cuenreview.com. That is INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling 0141 772 3976. That's 0141 772 3976.
The Glasgow Times, on Thursday the 20th of March 2025. From the news section. Glasgow locals asked for feedback on public space plans. This article has been written by Amy Miles and it's being read by me, Corey. Residents and businesses in the Yorkhill and Kelvingrove areas of Glasgow are being asked to share their thoughts on plans to improve public spaces. The proposals are part of the Connecting Yorkhill and Kelvingrove scheme, which aims to enhance walking, wheeling and cycling routes. The latest designs have been developed based on previous community feedback and focus on several streets in the neighbourhood. Detailed plans have been drawn up for Kelvinhaw Street, Derby Street, Park Grove Terrace and Kelvingrove Street, while proposals for Corunna Street, St Vincent's Crescent and Minerva Street remain in the early design stages. The designs show a variety of changes, including improved footways, step-free pedestrian crossings and a segregated cycleway on Derby Street and part of Kelvinhaw Street. There are also plans for better lighting and signage, more green spaces and new seating areas. Secure cycle parking and disabled parking bays are also part of the proposal. To gather more community feedback, a survey is available online until Sunday, April 27th, 2025. Paper copies of the survey can be found at Exchange House, the Pyramid at Anderston, and the National Library of Scotland on Argyle Street. A community drop-in event is also planned at the Pyramid at Anderston on Tuesday, March 25th, 2025, from 3:30 p.m. until 7 p.m. Councillor Angus Miller, convener of Transport and Climate, said, "We want to provide greater opportunities to move about Glasgow safely, and by establishing a city network of active travel routes, we can connect communities across the city. Connecting Yorkhill and Kelvingrove will improve the environment for walking, wheeling and cycling, and link to existing active travel routes such as those in Kelvingrove Park and the Govan Partick Bridge. The project will also encourage more sustainable travel by improving connectivity with Exhibition Centre train station. This project is all about improving public spaces and ensuring that active travel is viable and attractive for local journeys. I would strongly encourage the community to input into the consultation process and share their views on these proposals." Carol Patrick, Portfolio Director at Sustrans, said, "Creating safer spaces for walking, wheeling and cycling is a vital part of our work across Scotland. The new cycleways, seating areas, green spaces and street lighting set to be delivered in Yorkhill and Kelvingrove will be monumental for the people of Glasgow, helping make journeys to work, school and places of business easier for everyone." The plans stem from the consultation on Phase 1 of the project, which focused on the Radnor Street, Hugh Street, Yorkhill Street and Sandyford Street last year. Construction on these areas is due to start later this year. That article was from the Glasgow Times It was from the news section. It was written by Amy Miles, and it was read by me, Corey. The Glasgow Times on Thursday, the 20th of March, 2025. From the news section. Glasgow's top baby names for 2024 have been revealed. This article has been written by Amy Miles, and it's being read by me, Corey. Glasgow's most used baby names in 2024 have been revealed. Mohammed was the most popular boy's name in Glasgow last year, according to new figures. The name was given to 125 newborns in the city last year, according to National Records of Scotland, NRS. The alternative spelling, Mohammed, was also listed in the top 10 for the city. Noah was the second most popular name, with 42 babies given the name, followed by Luca, Theo and Rory. Other names in the top 10 were Adam, Leo, Alexander and Arlo. Olivia was the most popular girl's name in Glasgow in 2024, with 31 newborns given the name. Isla was second, with 27 babies given the name, followed by Lily, Sophia and Freya. The top 10 was rounded out by Millie, Maya, Sophia, Charlotte and Maisie. Across Scotland, Noah and Olivia were the most popular names in 2024. Noah had previously taken the top spot in 2022, while Olivia's return to number 1 marks her 7th time there, having stayed in the top 3 since 2008. NRS Chief Executive Alison Byrne said, "I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all the new babies on behalf of NRS. Noah and Olivia are the comeback kids, returning to the top of the charts. We had a record number of different boys' names used in registrations in 2024. Some of those climbing quickly are Reggie, Miles and Callan for boys, while Eliza, Romy and Nora jumped up the ranking for girls. Mohammed also enters the top 10 for the first time. Rising 9 places to second in the boys' list. This year, NRS also released the top names for the last 5 decades, as the current records began in 1974. David is the top boy's name in the past half-century, with more than 40,000 babies given the name. Emma leads for girls, with more than 24,000. The data shows how the names have changed over the years. The name of Scotland's patron saint, Andrew, has been the third most popular across the past 50 years. However, it didn't make it into the top 100 in 2024. Alison continued, "It's fascinating to look at the data for the past 5 decades and see the growing range of names in use. It is much easier now for a name to rise in the charts compared with previous generations. In 1974, more than 1,700 baby boys were called David, but 50 years on, Noah topped the chart with only 366. Over the past 50 years, some names have remained popular in every decade, like James, Thomas, George, Alexander, Anna, and Emma." That article was from the Glasgow Times. It was from the news section. It was written by Amy Miles, and it was read by me, Corey. The Glasgow Times on Thursday, the 20th of March, 2025. From the news section. Major works underway for new homes in bustling Glasgow area. This article has been written by Ben Waddle, and it's being read by me, Corey. Major works to create loads of new homes in a bustling Glasgow area have begun. Construction is now underway on 50 brand new affordable homes for social rent in the city's south side. The project is being delivered by family-owned independent house builders AS Homes (Scotland), on behalf of the Southside Housing Association. The development is aiming to bring a much-needed affordable housing site to Pollokshaws Road. Designed by Kepi Design, the development will comprise a mix of 1, 2 and 3 bedroom flats, including wheelchair-accessible homes, set across 4, 5 and 6 storey blocks. The site will also be a car-free site, as it will have plenty of green space. The project, which initially saw ground preparation works underway in early 2024, experienced delays before progressing to full construction. It is now expected to be completed by 2026. Paul Kelly, Managing Director of AS Homes, said, "We are delighted to be moving forward with this transformative development in Glasgow's south side. This project will breathe new life into the area, revitalising a derelict site into a vibrant, sustainable community designed with the needs of future residents in mind. By delivering high-quality, energy-efficient homes in a well-connected location, we are addressing the direct demand for affordable housing in the west of Scotland, while also enhancing the local environment with thoughtfully designed green spaces and modern communal facilities. We look forward to seeing this development take shape and provide lasting benefits for the south side of Glasgow." Paul McVeigh, CEO of Southside Housing Association, added, "We are delighted to see this development finally commence on such an important corner site in Glasgow's south side. These homes will go some way to helping address significant housing supply issues in the city, and will go towards alleviating homelessness and overcrowding among other housing needs. We are grateful to the work of our partners in managing to negotiate the obstacles facing the development and look forward to creating a lasting footprint on the Pollokshaws Road corridor." That article was from the Glasgow Times. It was from the news section. It was written by Ben Waddle, and it was read by me, Connie. The Glasgow Times, on Thursday the 20th of March 2025. From the news section. New children's play venue opening in Renfrew this April. This article has been written by Beth Oliver, and it's being read by me, Corey. A new children's play venue is set to open in Renfrew. Thistles and Tykes, a role-play village, has announced it will be opening in April. The venue aims to provide a safe, engaging and vibrant environment for young children to explore, play and socialise. Thistles and Tykes is designed to provide families with a modern take on soft play with pastel colours, award-winning coffee and cakes, and Instagrammable touch points. The Roleplay Village features a mixture of activities including a slide and mini obstacle course for children of walking age of up to 7 years old. It also includes mini themed rooms that offer immersive play experiences for younger children. Themed rooms include environments such as a mini supermarket, vet and laundrette, where children can role-play and use their imagination. As well as entertainment for the children, the venue hopes to be a place where parents can relax. Amanda Bishop, the founder of Thistles and Tykes, said, "We are thrilled to bring Thistles and Tykes to Renfrew. As a mum of a toddler myself, I spend a lot of time in soft plays, and trying to find ways to entertain my son. And I felt there was a real gap in the market for a role-play village that kids will love, but also that looks really nice and is a cute place for parents to hang out in and get really nice cake and coffee. The aim is to create a really welcoming space where children can grow, learn and play in a safe and stimulating environment. We understand the importance of community and family-friendly offerings, and we're proud to offer a unique experience that both children and parents will love." That article was from the Glasgow Times. It was from the news section. It was written by Beth Oliver, and it was read by me, Corey.
This is from the Glasgow Times on Friday 21st March 2025, from the News section. We need decisive action now to find former police station new use, by Jack Thompson. The iconic former police station in Renfrew has lain empty for far too long, as renewed calls have been issued to find the B-listed building a new use. More than £260,000 has been set aside to fund demolition of a rear portion of the Inshinnan Road landmark, as well as rot removal and other repair works. The money allocated from the Renfrew Common Good Fund has been directed towards securing the immediate future of the structure. However, Councillor James Maguire, a Labour representative for Renfrew North and Bray Head, has called for decisive action to prevent it falling into disrepair again. He raised the matter during a discussion on the Buildings at Risk Register at Renfrewshire Council's Economy and Regeneration Policy Board recently. Councillor Maguire said, "The old Renfrew police station has been sitting vacant for far too long. While I welcome the recent approval for partial demolition and efforts to remove rot, this is simply not enough on its own. We need to take decisive action now before the building deteriorates any further. It is disgraceful that such a prominent and historic building in Renfrew has been allowed to sit unused for years." The politician expressed concern about the fate of the property and pointed to the demise of the Brown Institute in Canal Street, demolished last year. He added, "We have already seen the consequences of neglect with the Brown Institute, once an important part of Renfrew's history, now lost. We cannot let the same thing happen here. The council must seriously consider what we're going to do with this building beyond just structural works. We cannot afford to wait any longer. I'm waiting to see if there's any allocation within the budget for regeneration beyond those standard structural works." The former police station dates back to 1910 and was designed by architect Alexander Nisbet Patterson. It was leased by the police until June 2012 before they moved on to new premises in Station Road. Since then, the building has lain vacant and suffered severe deterioration, exacerbated by break-ins, vandalism and excessive water ingress. The local authority previously submitted an application to the Levelling Up Fund for a £20 million project to transform the police station and neighbouring swimming baths into a community hub, but the bid was unsuccessful. SNP councillor Andy Steele, convener of the board, said, "The plan, as I understand it, is to have the work done under common good funding to remove the dry rot and the damp. That then makes the building far more attractive to developers to develop because they don't have to do the restorative and demolition work for that, in fact. That takes the bill right off them. I would suggest this council is bending over backwards to help do everything they can to get that building back into use. It is one thing, unfortunately, and this is the reality, as you'll be perfectly well aware, to say that we want to see the building back in use. It's hell of a lot more difficult to actually find an appropriate body, group, whoever that wants to go in and use it, because although it looks beautiful, it's also very elderly." That article was by Jack Thompson. This is from the Glasgow Times on Friday 21st March 2025, from the News section. Young student with autism fulfills dream of leading Glasgow tour. an exclusive by Anne Fotheringham. When he first started work placement at Glasgow City Chambers, Craig McGarity set himself an ambitious goal. The 24-year-old, who has autism, wanted to be able to lead a tour of the building by the end of the 10-week programme. Last week, cheered on by his friends and colleagues, he did exactly that. "I have absolutely loved my time working here," said Craig, 24, who is from Pollock. "I've developed many new skills and made friendships, but most importantly, my self-confidence has grown so much and I have loved coming to work each day. This placement has opened up so many opportunities for me, and I feel more prepared now moving forward into the world of work." Craig is part of Project Search, an intensive work experience programme which provides young adults who have autism and learning disabilities with the skills they need for paid employment. It is a partnership between Glasgow City Council, City of Glasgow College and Strathclyde University. Craig has been working in the Chambers as part of the facilities management team who run the tours each week as part of their remit. He also helped with cleaning the Lord Provost's official chain. At the end of the tour, his team presented him with a gift to thank him for all his hard work. James Curry, facilities management attendant and Craig's mentor, said, "It has been a pleasure to work with Craig these past 10 weeks. Seeing his confidence and self-belief grow so significantly has been a joy. We hope this placement has given him a solid foundation to help make a positive transition into future employment. I'm so proud of everything he has achieved, and I know he will go on to excel in the future." Audrey Harrower, one of Craig's job coaches, said, "The Project Search programme changes neurodivergent young adults' lives. It offers them real workplace experience and an understanding of what is expected to help them gain meaningful employment. They gain new skills, independence, confidence and self-belief. There are more than 600 Project Search sites worldwide, including 2 in Glasgow. The second is based at Glasgow Royal Infirmary." That was an exclusive by Anne Fotheringham. This is from the Glasgow Times on Friday, 21st February 2025. From the news section. Glasgow man changing the lives of construction apprentices. Exclusive by Morgan Carmichael. A Glasgow man is changing the lives of construction apprentices and breaking down barriers in the industry after winning a handful of awards and taking social media by storm. Chris Keel, 26, went from living in a council flat while doing his apprenticeship with Glasgow-based City Building to living the dream of owning his own business, Keel's Joinery and Construction. After winning Trade Apprentice of the Year at Screwfix's 2020 UK Awards, Chris began logging his day-to-day in construction on TikTok, and his business as well as his platform have grown intensely, and he's putting the fame to good use. Speaking to the Glasgow Times, the Knightswood man said, "When I started posting on TikTok, it was brand new, and my content just went crazy. It grew arms and legs. Social media took over, and we started getting brand deals from the likes of Screwfix and Milwaukee Tools. By the time it came to 2021, I left City Building and made my own business, and now my dream is to use my platform to give opportunities to other apprentices." One way Chris is helping apprentices is by visiting city colleges to give away tools. Chris visited Glasgow Clyde College Cardonald campus on February 14th to host a number of competitive games, similar to those in Beast Games, a reality competition TV series created by Jimmy Donaldson, also known as YouTuber Mr. Beast, Tyler Conklin, Sean Clinzer and Mac Hopkins. Beast Games follows 1,000 contestants as they compete for the prize of $5 million, eventually bumped up to $10 million by competing in a series of challenges inspired by the viral Netflix show Squid Game and Donaldson's popular video, $456,000 Squid Game in real life. I absolutely love Mr. Beast, Chris said. He continued, he is so fun. I take inspiration from him. The winner of the games was a first-year apprentice at the college who won £1,000 worth of tools, donated by manufacturer Milwaukee Tools UK. Chris said, "It was such a buzz and a good day. Our plan is very much to keep going with these games. It helps people. When I won the awards and got my power tools, which are so expensive, it made such a difference to me and gave me confidence. I want to give that back to others." The games were recorded by Chris and his team and will be made into a YouTube video, which will be episode 0 of a series. The video will go live on YouTube on Sunday, February 23rd. You can watch it via Keel's Joinery and Construction's YouTube account. And Chris isn't limiting his free giveaways to just tools either. He explained, "We want to give people life-changing sums of money, and I want to keep making videos which generate money that we can give back to others." Often posting content of himself and his wife, who is an apprentice at Keel's, Chris also hopes to put more women into construction apprenticeships. He said, "My wife works for me in the business. She is such an advocate for women in construction. We want to highlight that construction is a place for women and that though this industry is hard, it also has so many rewards and makes for a great career." To find out more about Keel's Joinery, visit www.keelsjoinery.com. That article was an exclusive by Morgan Carmichael.
Glasgow Times News on Monday the 24th of March. Barely conscious man pulled from Loch Lomond after a multi-agency rescue. An article written by Amy Miles. A barely conscious man was pulled from Loch Lomond, sparking a multi-agency rescue. The dramatic rescue unfolded on Saturday night after reports of a person in the water prompted the large-scale response, reports STV. The Loch Lomond rescue boat was called in and the crew heard cries for help coming from both the water and near Inchcailloch Island. The search efforts resulted in the successful rescue of the man and the 3 individuals on the island. The man, discovered by the Loch Lomond rescue boat, had been in the water shouting for help near to the island. He was found as part of a search involving a His Majesty's Coast Guard rescue helicopter, Police Scotland, the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service and the Scottish Ambulance Service. The rescue team managed to locate him, bring him into the boat and start casualty care immediately. The man was transferred to an ambulance waiting at Balmaha Pier. The rescue crew then returned to Inchcailloch Island, where they found 3 more people. All were said to be safe and well. A spokesperson for Loch Lomond Rescue Boat said to STV, "Utilising all our search equipment, we located and recovered 1 barely conscious male from the water into the boat and immediately began casualty care while returning to Balmaha Pier, and after a short time the casualty was handed to the Scottish Ambulance Service for further care." The rescue boat then attended Inchcailloch Island to collect 3 other persons and return them to the mainland, all of whom were safe and well. Police Scotland have been contacted for further comment. An article written by Amy Miles. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 24th of March. Explosion marks the end of an era for iconic towers. A front-page article written by Esther Tarnay. 3 of the Winford towers were demolished yesterday. Hundreds of onlookers gathered at several vantage points in North Glasgow to watch the buildings being pulled down. The structures at 151, 171 and 191 Winford Road disappeared from the city's skyline at noon amid loud thuds. A large cloud of dust lingered for minutes above the site. A spokesperson from Wheatley Homes Glasgow, the company behind the work, confirmed that everything went according to plan. The tall structures fell one by one, starting with the middle tower, followed by the one on the left, and finally the right side, leaving a huge pile of materials behind. The 4th block will be brought down gradually from the top down. Work on this has already started. After the rubble is cleared, a brand new housing estate will be built on the site, with 386 affordable homes and a community hub. The £100 million scheme, funded by the Council and Wheatley Homes Glasgow, will aim to regenerate the area. According to the plans, the new development will include a large hall, a cafe, bookable rooms and free access to computers. It will further see the installation of green spaces, improved walkways, cycle paths, 500 new bike racks, improved car parking facilities and a new children's play park. Wheatley Homes Glasgow claimed that most tenants support the construction of the new site. The landlord submitted a demolition notice for the high-rises in 2022, quoting that the flats were unpopular and outdated. However, the Winford Residents Association, a local campaign group, has been against the proposal from the beginning. They advocated for the retrofitting of the flats, quoting the need for homes during the ongoing housing crisis. They took the issue to the courts. Following a years-long legal battle, the Council's decision not to carry out an environmental impact assessment was ruled lawful last year by Scotland's highest court, the inner house of the Court of Session in Edinburgh. As a result, the structures were pulled down by demolition company SafeDem. These homes have been empty and cordoned off for months after residents moved out. Chris Quinn, co-chair of the Winford Futures Focus Group, said, "This is a really exciting time for Winford. We're looking forward to working with everyone in the community on future plans, which will create a better Winford for everyone." Originally, the 26-storey structures were the last additions to the Winford estate between 1965 and 1969. A front-page article written by Esther Tarnay. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 24th of March. More than 400,000 paramedic hours lost due to mental ill health. An article written by Rosie Lewis. More than 400,000 hours of paramedic staff time have been lost due to mental health absences since 2019, according to research from the Scottish Liberal Democrats. Freedom of Information data showed a 61% increase in sickness hours due to anxiety, stress or depression between 2019 and 2024. In total, 404,616 sickness hours were recorded over the period, the equivalent of 92 years. The Lib Dems said that SNP mismanagement has made it harder for people to access treatment. Party leader Alex Cole-Hamilton said, "Paramedics have been pushed to breaking point. It's leading to huge levels of staff absences, making it tougher for people to get the life-saving treatment that they need." Under the SNP, nightmarish waits for ambulances have become the norm. Ministers have no idea how to ease those waits, depriving our hard-working first responders of the support that they need. He said that the Lib Dems had secured millions for social care and local health care. The party supported the SNP's budget, which passed its final vote in Holyrood in February. Mr Cole-Hamilton added, "After so long in charge, it's clear that the SNP lacks the creativity and the understanding to fix the crisis in our health service. Ultimately, delivering for staff, patients and the wider NHS is going to require a change of government." A spokesperson for the Scottish Ambulance Service said, The health and well-being of our staff is an absolute priority, and we've introduced new initiatives as part of our health and well-being strategy. We recognise the impact of current system pressures on our staff, including extended hospital handover delays. These delays understandably cause frustration, as they're unable to get back out onto the road to treat others. We continue to work with health boards across the country to address these system pressures, and we remain thankful to all of our staff for the incredible job that they do, often in very difficult circumstances. An article written by Rosie Lewis.
This is a column taken from the opinion pages of the Glasgow Times, published on Monday, the 24th of March. It's written by Mike Daly. Who voted to bring back UK austerity? Elections often result in positive change, but in Brexit Britain, it seems that things can only get worse. Over the weekend, the Joseph Rowntree Foundation published its outlook for living standards in advance of the Chancellor's spring statement on Wednesday. It makes for bleak reading. The Foundation's data analysis predicts that average UK household disposable incomes, after housing costs, will remain £400 a year below 2020 levels in April 2025. By April 2030, households will be a further £1,400 worse off on average than they are today, a 3% fall. On the 20th of July, 1957, Tory Prime Minister Harold Macmillan told the people, "You've never had it so good," as a post-war economic boom led to a rise in living standards for the many. Ironically, Mr Macmillan was considerably more progressive than Keir Starmer and most of his current cabinet in political principles. Supermac, as he was known, was a pro-European conservative who supported a strong welfare state and Keynesian economics, public spending to maintain economic growth and demand. Starmer's talk of fixing the foundations and milestones is just that. Talk. He won't meet his improved living standards milestone, according to the Foundation's research. The last British government that managed to make people worse off was in 1955, under Anthony Eden. The promise of putting more money in the pockets of working people now looks hollow and meaningless. Unless you're a politician enjoying a cavalcade of freebies, gifts and concerts. On Wednesday, we expect details of more public spending cuts, possibly £10 billion, including a £5 billion cut to disability benefits and universal credit. You cannot cut your way to economic growth. That's the view of a group of leading UK economists, who published an open letter last week to the Chancellor on the Invest in Britain website. Professor Mariana Mazzucato and her academic colleagues said, "The last 15 years have taught us that the UK cannot cut its way to growth. Spending cuts now would further undermine both growth prospects and fiscal sustainability, storing up even greater problems with government borrowing costs further down the line. Achieving growth will require rebuilding public services, investing in skills, research and development, and the strategic, climate-safe industries of the future, and boosting demand by strengthening the social safety net." Yesterday, Chancellor Rachel Reeves's only response to the Foundation's report and the advice of experts was to say, "I reject that." If the cuts go ahead, the Scottish Government could see the loss of almost £500 million in its devolved budget, making its current spending plans unaffordable. It would likely be forced to make large spending cuts. People in England and Wales will find it more difficult to claim disability benefits under proposals to make the assessment process more onerous for claimants. English reforms also seek to exclude those aged under 22 from the incapacity top-up. Hopefully, such an approach would not be taken in Scotland, however, cuts would have to come from somewhere. Who voted to bring back austerity? When Cameron and Osborne took office in 2010, their austerity policies increased poverty, unemployment, food insecurity, homelessness, and reduced funding for culture and local government. Back in 1997, Tony Blair was fond of playing the Dee Ream song, "Things Can Only Get Better" at public events. How things have changed indeed. A column written by Mike Daly.
Glasgow Times News on Monday the 24th of March. Poorest pensioners will receive an extra £465 from April. An article written by Jade Wright. Some of the poorest pensioners will receive an extra £465 a year from next month, after the Department for Work and Pensions confirmed that pensions will be going up by the triple lock figure of 4.4%. Those in receipt of pension credit will automatically receive the increase in their pensions, which is just under £9 a week, from April. The standard minimum guarantee will see payments go up for a single person from £218.15 a week to £227.10 a week. For a couple, that's from £332.95 a week to £346.60 a week. There are additional elements available if you're a carer, you're disabled, you're looking after children, or if you have savings and reach state pension age before April 2016. Pension credit tops up your income if you're above state pension age. It's also known as a gateway benefit, as it unlocks other perks such as council tax discounts and free television licences for the over 75s. More than 45,000 extra pensioners have been awarded pension credit since the winter fuel allowance became means tested. A record number of applications have been made since the changes were announced, with eligible claimants being awarded up to £4,300 a year. This followed news on July the 29th last year that from winter 2024, winter fuel payments would be dependent on receiving another means-tested benefit as part of measures to fill a black hole in the public finances. This meant that the number of pensioners receiving the payment would be reduced by around 10 million people, from 11.4 million to 1.5 million. Secretary of State for Work and Pensions Liz Kendall says, "I'm delighted that we've been able to reach so many pensioners who need to be on pension credit, which can be a lifeline to so many on low incomes. The record high number of claims awarded follows months of work to drive awareness of pension credit and then to process the huge spike in applications that we received. And now thousands more pensioners are accessing the range of support on offer. We won't stop there. We're absolutely committed to ensuring that every pensioner is supported in their retirement, whether through our ongoing pension credit campaign, extending the Household Support Fund, and our commitment to the triple log on the state pension." An article written by Jade Wright. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 24th of March. Private talks take place ahead of the Scottish Premier win celebration in Glasgow. An exclusive article written by Nicole Mitchell. Private talks between Celtic and Rangers and community leaders have been taking place before the end of the football season after previous disruption and disorder in the city centre. Glasgow City Council and Police Scotland have also been involved in the discussions before the Scottish Premiership title win in a bid to avoid the kind of disorder, vandalism and violence that's been a persistent feature of gatherings at the Trongate and in George Square at the conclusion of recent football seasons. Around 25,000 Celtic supporters gathered in the Merchant City last May to celebrate the club's third successive Scottish Premiership League win, bringing the area to a standstill. Community councils representing the Merchant City, Trongate and Calton previously said that residents, businesses and visitors to the area have been terrified and intimidated by the display. Police Scotland, Glasgow City Council, Council Leader Susan Aitken and local businesses also criticised fans for engaging in antisocial behaviour, violence and causing property damage. 4 police officers were injured during the gathering and 19 arrests were made in connection with disorder-related offences and the use of pyrotechnics. It followed similar celebrations in the Trongate by Celtic fans in 2022 and 2023 and in George Square by Rangers fans in 2021. The Glasgow Times understands that further talks are set to take place with the council, saying that they would support Celtic or Rangers organising or hosting celebrations for supporters at the end of the season. However, so far it's understood that no agreement has been made on what sort of event could take place. MSP Cowcup Stewart has also arranged a meeting with all relevant parties, which is expected to take place next week. Ms Stewart said that since she was elected in 2021, she's been inundated with messages from residents and businesses in the city centre and has met with representatives from Rangers and Celtic to discuss what plans could be put in place to prevent repeats. She said, "Since my election in 2021, celebrations at the end of the football season have seen fans flock to the city centre, and unfortunately some have caused fear and alarm for both residents and businesses. After being inundated with correspondence from individuals throughout the city centre, I've met with both Rangers Football Club and Celtic Football Club, the Merchant City and Trongate Community Council and other relevant stakeholders to discuss concerns and to explore what plans could be put in place to prevent this happening so that everyone feels safe in the city centre to go about their business. Clearly, we need a long-term plan to look at alternative solutions so that celebrations can take place without causing antisocial behaviour. This requires all relevant stakeholders to work together. With the football season coming to an end shortly, I've arranged a meeting with all relevant parties to discuss what's been implemented to ensure that we do not have a repeat of previous years. It's understood that the Scottish Professional Football League has also been involved in discussions with relevant authorities throughout the year. A council spokesperson said Glasgow is a great sporting city and fans should have the opportunity to celebrate success. However, there can be absolutely no justification for celebrations that lead to the kind of disorder, vandalism and violence that has been a persistent feature of gatherings at Trongate and in George Square at the conclusion of recent football seasons. We have heard and we share the frustrations of local businesses and people living in these neighbourhoods. The Council has made it clear during its engagement with clubs and stakeholders that it would be in the best interests of the city, its sporting institutions and above all local communities for all parties to use whatever influence they have to encourage fans not to gather in that manner. At the same time, the Council has always been clear that it will support any efforts made by clubs to organise or to host sustainable and safe celebrations for supporters. We've been engaging on this subject consistently over recent years and will continue to do so right up to the end of the season. A Police Scotland spokesperson added, "We work closely with a range of partners to address concerns and to ensure that appropriate policing plans are in place to maintain public safety and minimise any disruption to the wider community." Celtic Football Club and Rangers Football Club have been contacted for comment. An exclusive article written by Nicole Mitchell. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 24th of March. Scottish adults support the idea of charging university tuition fees. An article written by Morgan Carmichael. Almost half of Scottish adults would support the idea of charging university tuition fees, it's been revealed. A report published by the Carnegie Trust for the Universities of Scotland and based on polling by Ipsos UK sought the public's views on the value, accessibility and funding of higher education. The report showed widespread support for some form of help with the cost of tuition fees, but opinions were divided on the extent of the kind of help offered. Out of the 1,057 people over the age of 18 who were interviewed, 44% expressed the view that the Scottish Government should continue to support all first-time undergraduates, while 43% said that they would prefer those whose households could afford it to pay at least some of their tuition fees. 4 in 10 respondents agreed that too many people in Scotland continued to face barriers to go to university, with those from low-income households and disadvantaged backgrounds considered most likely to experience barriers. When asked where the Scottish Government should prioritise post-school education funding, 61% of respondents backed apprenticeship places, followed by grants or bursaries for low-income and disadvantaged students to cover the cost of living. Upskilling and retraining for adults on low incomes and supporting people who face barriers to university were prioritised by 43% and 29% respectively, while just over a quarter felt that funding all first-time undergraduate tuition fees should be a priority. Overall, the report found that almost half of Scottish adults supported the idea of charging university tuition fees based on the ability to pay, and less than a third said that they would not back such a move. However, the Scottish Government insists that it will not move away from its commitment for university tuition to remain free for Scottish students. Hannah Garrow, Chief Executive for the Carnegie Trust for the Universities of Scotland, said, "We know how complex the higher education funding system is and how much rides on it. However, recent discussions on how to finance higher education feel like they are stuck on repeat, while for many people funding continues to be seen as a barrier to access. This research shows that there is room for a more nuanced and open discussion on priorities for funding. If politicians are struggling to come up with solutions, perhaps the public can inject some democratic innovation into the debate. The government has already committed to lead the development of a new funding model, so understanding the views of the public as beneficiaries and users of the system is critical. We hope that the Scottish Government and all political parties in Scotland will get behind our citizen jury and commit to giving its outcomes careful consideration. An article written by Morgan Carmichael. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 24th of March. Traffic chaos and disruption as a city centre sinkhole is discovered. An article written by Amy Miles. A sinkhole has been discovered on a key route through Glasgow city centre. Scottish Water was called out on Sunday to carry out emergency repairs after the void was found on Cowcaddens Road. The sinkhole was found by third-party workers carrying out street improvement works. The road, which is already reduced to one lane in each direction, was closed to all westbound traffic from its junction with Port Dundas Road and West Nile Street. Traffic heading north on Hope Street, which is already reduced to 2 lanes because of ongoing third-party works, is only allowed to turn right. A Scottish Water spokeswoman said, "The void is underneath the already coned-off side of the carriageway, but we have to shut a third lane as well to carry out the repair safely. At this moment, we don't know how long these emergency works and associated roadworks will be in place. We appreciate it's going to cause significant delays to road users, but everyone's safety, our engineers and the public is an absolute priority. People may want to consider using public transport if travelling to this busy area of the city centre, find another route or allow plenty of extra time. We'd like to thank all those affected for their patience and understanding." Drivers were being asked to follow all diversion signs during the closure, which enables Scottish Water to investigate the cause of the void, assess the extent of repairs required, and to carry them out. All businesses in the area are understood to have remained open as usual. An article written by Amy Miles. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 24th of March. Trio behind bars after a horror hit-and-run murder bid. An article written by Grant McCabe. 3 men are behind bars after a horror hit-and-run murder bid. Robert Graham was mowed down by a silver Toyota Yaris as he crossed the road in Springbank Road in Paisley in April 2022. The then 37-year-old was targeted following an earlier dispute. Stuart Lindsay, 31, David Sherry, 36, and Daniel Millen, 27, have now been convicted of attempted murder at the High Court in Glasgow. Prosecutors said that the trio and 2 others had all acted together as part of a coordinated plan to inflict violence on Mr. Graham that evening. The 3 were remanded in custody and will be sentenced in May. Jurors heard how the Yaris and an Audi driven by Mr. Lindsay had gone to Paisley in convoy. Mr. Graham was said to have been effectively lured to the scene. He was seen speaking to the driver of the Audi moments before the attack. It was then that the Yaris came out of nowhere and ploughed into the man as he crossed the road. In his closing speech, prosecutor Michael McIntosh told jurors Robert Graham was sent up into the air. The Audi drove off so quickly that a witness thought it was that car which had hit him. The Audi had driven off before Robert Graham had even hit the ground, but it was the Yaris that had struck him. The Yaris was later found burnt out at the Airlink Industrial Estate in Paisley. Mr. Sherry had been seen getting out of the car before it was set on fire, clutching a weapon. The 5-strong gang all then fled from the area in the Audi. Mr. Lindsay was a friend of another of the mob, John Wallace, who has since died. He claimed Mr. Wallace had got him involved on false pretences. Mr. McIntosh suggested that if Mr. Lindsay had no idea what was to happen that day, then he may at least have stopped to check on Mr. Graham or to call for help. The advocate depute said, instead, Robert Graham had not even touched the ground and Mr. Lindsay had sped off. Mr. Sherry admitted to being a passenger in the Yaris, but claimed he was only aware of any collision when it had actually happened. Mr. McIntosh put to the jury that Mr. Sherry would have had them believe he had been in a panic, desperate to get out of the situation that he was in. Mr. Graham was left badly hurt following the hit and run, but he survived the ordeal. Mr. Lindsay and Mr. Sherry were found guilty of the charge after a trial. Mr. Millen had earlier pleaded guilty before the case began. Lord Mulholland told the three, "You have been convicted of a horrific attempted murder, a car driven at someone to try and kill them, all because of a drug deal gone wrong. Be under no illusion, it will be a lengthy sentence for all of you." An article written by Grant McCabe.
From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday the 18th of March 2025. From the news section. Police frantically searching for Glasgow women who vanished. And this article was written by Ben Waddell. Police are frantically searching for a missing Glasgow woman who has vanished. Officers in Maryhill are appealing for information to help track down Florence Brooke. The 28-year-old was last seen at around 4:50 p.m. on Monday, March the 17th, on Ballornock Road in the city's north. The young woman is described as being around 5'2" tall, of heavy build, and has medium-length curly hair with white highlights and wears glasses. Police say she was last seen wearing a navy and white horizontal striped jumper, light blue jeans, and white, black and red canvas Vans shoes. Sergeant Ross McBurney at Maryhill Police Station said, "We're becoming increasingly concerned for the safety and welfare of Florence, and I'd like to speak to anyone who has seen her since 4:50 p.m. yesterday, or anyone who knows of her current whereabouts." A Police Scotland spokesperson added, "Anyone with information should contact Police Scotland via 101 and quote incident number 2441 of March the 17th, 2025. And that article was by Ben Waddell. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday the 25th of March 2025, from the news section. Glasgow Citizens Advice issues stark warning over rents, and this article was written by Amy Miles. The 8 Glasgow Citizens Advice Bureau, CABX, have issued a stark warning to the city's MSPs about the potential impact of removing temporary modifications to the rent adjudication system in Scotland. These modifications, which have been in place for a year, are set to expire at the end of March. They were introduced as part of a transition away from rent caps under the Cost of Living Tenant Protection Scotland Act 2022. They also ensured that if a rent increase was referred for adjudication, the adjudicating body, Rent Service Scotland, could not set a new rent higher than a landlord's proposal. The 8 Glasgow CABX, Citizens Advice Bureaus, believe these temporary modifications offered vital protection against unmanageable rent increases and hoped they would continue until a new rent control system was in place. They argued that many households are struggling to afford basic necessities, and a significant shock to already constrained incomes will push many people into further poverty. In early February, Citizens Advice Scotland wrote to the Housing Minister to express concern about the end of the temporary modifications. It is now the understanding of Glasgow Citizen Advice Bureaus that there is no intention to continue these modifications. Dr. James Patrick Ferns, a representative of the Glasgow CABX, said, "In the context of Glasgow declaring a housing emergency in November 2023 and the Scottish Government declaring a national emergency in May 2024, Glasgow CABX is deeply concerned that the removal of the temporary modifications to the rent adjudication system risks leaving the most vulnerable in society without essential protection at a time of continued financial crisis. He highlighted that child poverty already costs Glasgow City Council £1 billion per annum, with housing costs recognised as a direct contribution to these figures. Dr. Fearn said, "The reality of the situation is that ending the rent cap will exacerbate these figures, seriously undermining the valuable work that has been done to address child poverty across Glasgow." He also pointed out that advice on actual homelessness increased by 25% between the financial years of 2023 to 24 and 2024 to 25. Advice on threatened homelessness increased by 23%, and advice on private rented sector rents increased by 20%. He warned, "Our evidence also indicates that if further protections against rent rises are not implemented, more people in Glasgow will face unaffordable rent increases and will be forced to find alternative accommodation or to declare themselves homeless. This will further exacerbate the housing emergency in Glasgow, placing even more strain and pressure on homelessness services." He called on the Scottish Government to maintain the effect of the temporary modifications, such as limit on rent increases of up to a maximum of 12% and a continuation of Rent Service Scotland not setting new rents higher than landlords' proposals. Dr. Fearn said these provisions must stay in place until the Housing Scotland Bill takes effect, and the rent control section and the bill must be prioritised for implementation as soon as practicable. Glasgow CabX believes that this issue is significant in addressing poverty, and failure to keep these protections in place will have serious consequences for the people of Glasgow. The 8 Glasgow CabX include Bridgeton Citizens Advice Bureau, Castlemilk Citizens Advice Bureau, Drumchapel, Easterhouse, Glasgow Central, Glasgow North West, Pollock and Parkhead Citizens Advice Bureau. And that article was written by Amy Miles. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday the 25th of March 2025, from the news section. Murderer who mowed down man in Glasgow must wait to learn his fate. And this article was written by Grant McCabe. A killer who murdered a man and left another in a wheelchair in a horror hit and run faces a further wait to learn his fate. Michael Day, 24, mowed down Thomas Bowers, 33, and Stephen Byrne, 53, in Glasgow's Springburn in the early hours of April the 14th, 2023. The shocking crime is said to have been sparked after an earlier incident at a nearby flat. Day, said to have only a provisional licence at the time, drove to the scene in a Vauxhall Astra before hitting the men as they walked in the street. Mr. Bowers never recovered, having suffered fatal injuries. Day was convicted of murder and attempted murder following a trial last month. He was due to learn the minimum he would spend behind bars at a hearing at the High Court in Glasgow today. A large group of Mr. Bowers' family and friends were also present. But Judge Lord Harrower said there were a number of loose ends in a pre-sentencing social work report that needed further investigation. This included calling for a psychological report to be completed on Day. The case was then further adjourned until May the 6th in Edinburgh. Jurors at the trial had watched CCTV of the attacks. The killing occurred in the city's Petershill Road at its junction with Auchinloch Street. The Astra hit both men before reversing, driving at them again and then fleeing the scene. One police officer who examined the footage said it appeared Others then seemingly were rifling the pockets of a stricken Mr. Bowers. Mr. Byrne gave evidence during the trial. He remains in a wheelchair due to his injuries. The witness said he had been at a nearby flat to speak to a man who owed him money. He admitted there had been raised voices at the property but denied there was any violence. Both Mr. Byrne and Mr. Bowers were then struck shortly after leaving the flat. Asked by prosecutor Greg Farrell what he recalled about the collision, Mr. Byrne stated, "I heard the revving of an engine, the lights, and that was it. I remember trying to jump as the car came towards me." The witness said he was drifting in and out of consciousness as he lay stricken on the ground. A number of people came up the street and he asked them to call an ambulance for them both. Day was said to have made incriminating remarks after the attack to a man and also asked in vain for him to help torch the Astra. The car was later discovered burnt out in the city's Ridley. Prosecutors said Day then fled to a caravan park in Ayrshire and also got rid of a SIM card from a mobile phone he had been using. And that article was by Grant McCabe. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday, the 25th of March, 2025. From the news section. Owner of Glasgow subway carriages blasts talentless vandals. And this article was written by Amy Miles. The owner of 10 old Glasgow subway carriages has criticised talentless graffiti vandals. Joe Mulholland, who plans to use the carriages as part of a restaurant and for workshops in Finnieston, said the vandalism has left him with a cleaning bill of several £1,000s. The carriages were sold to private individuals and charities after being taken out of service last year. Joe, who owns the Hidden Lane in Finnieston, told BBC Scotland News, "The actual graffiti, I would say, is talentless. It's not as if you would say, oh, that's interesting, we'll keep that. There's nothing we would like to keep. It has made carriages, which were very elegant, look cheapy and tawdry." He said the vandals entered through a locked gate and damaged security cameras at the site. He added, "If it had been Banksy that had put it on, I probably would have considered keeping it, but none of these are on the same planet as Banksy." Joe is one of several people who bought the old carriages after they were replaced by newer models. They were put up for sale by contractors Stadler Rail for £5,000, with the fee waived for charities. The carriages were bought by nurseries, an art centre and a restaurateur. Joe bought 10 carriages and is seeking planning permission to turn some of them into a restaurant in the former Finnieston train station building and others into workshop spaces. He said people had huge affection for the carriages and he felt it was important to preserve the structures. He continued, "I just thought this was a great thing to keep for Glasgow. This is part of Glasgow's history, but it is also part of the day-to-day life of the ordinary people of Glasgow. From every walk of life, they've all travelled on the subway." Police Scotland have been approached for comment. And that article was by Amy Miles, read by me, Caroline.
This is the Glasgow Times on the 26th of March 2025 from the news section, and the headline reads, "Glasgow to open Scotland's first ever walk-in mental health hubs." This article is by Rosie Lewis. A mental health charity is planning to create Scotland's first network of walk-in mental health support hubs, called The Nook, to provide a place where the public can get help fast. Scottish Action for Mental Health, SAMH, will open its first Nook in Glasgow in the autumn of this year, providing barrier-free access to mental health support, with further hubs set to follow in Aberdeen, Edinburgh, Inverclyde and Lanarkshire. The initiative will create a network of mental health support across the country, with each Nook able to provide an extensive outreach programme to help people in surrounding areas too. To aid the initiative, SAMH is holding its first major appeal to the public for donations, with a target of £10 million to fund the hubs for 3 years. SAMH's announcement coincides with the charity's new 4-year plan, Taking Action, Creating Change, which was also unveiled this week. Donations to the initiative can be made on SAMH's website at samh.org.uk/NOOK. Billy Watson, the chief executive, said, "We believe people with mental health problems should be able to ask once and get help fast, so we're taking action to make that a reality. The NOOK is the most ambitious thing we've ever done. We believe it will revolutionise mental health support in Scotland and inspire collective action to change the system in the long term. The most important aspect of the NOOK is the delivery of effective, compassionate and person-centred mental health support that empowers people to improve their well-being and manage their mental health challenges. We need public support to make this happen, and we can open more NOOKs in more communities with more support." Shona Littlejohn, chairwoman of SAMH, said, "Scotland is in a mental health crisis. We have waited long enough for investment in better community mental health support. People are sitting on waiting lists, unable to access the help they need, while too many of our young people are rejected from support. Something has to change. We are a trusted provider of mental health support, and we are ready to take action. By creating our first NOOK in Glasgow, we will create the change we believe is needed to help the many thousands of people experiencing mental health problems in Scotland. We have waited long enough for government and other bodies to solve this problem. It's time to take action, it's time to create change, and that's what the NOOK is all about." This article was by Rosie Lewis. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 26th of March 2025, from the news section, and the headline reads, "More than 40 Glasgow roads to close during Race for Life." This article was by Amy Miles. Drivers in Glasgow should prepare for significant road closures as the Race for Life is set to take place on May 18th, 2025. The city will see 47 roads closed for the race, with other restrictions in place. The restrictions are scheduled to remain in place from 3 p.m. on May 17th until 4 p.m. on May 18th. During this time, there will be no waiting, no loading or unloading policy in effect on the following roads: Albert Bridge between Saltmarket and Crown Street, Anchor Lane for its full length, Argyle Street between Hope Street and Queen Street, Buchanan Street for its full length, Candleriggs for its full length, Clyde Street for its full length, access maintained to Maxwell Street, Congress Road for its full length, one lane, near side, westbound, Crown Street between Ballater Street and Saltmarket, Fastlink, Anderston Quay and Broomielaw, Finniston Quay for its full length, westbound only, Garth Street for its full length, George Street between George Square and Montrose Street, George Square, all sides, Glassford Street for its full length, Gorbel Street between Ballater Street and Clyde Street, Greendyke Street for its full length, Hanover Street, George Square and Ingram Street, Howard Street for its full length, Hutchison Street between Trongate and Wilson Street, Ingram Street between Queen Street and Miller Street, Jamaica Street for its full length, John Street for its full length, King George V Bridge for its full length, King Street between Parney Street and Trongate, Lansfield Quay for its full length, Martha Street for its full length, Midland Street for its full length, Mitchell Street between Argyle Street and Mitchell Lane, Montrose Street between Ingram Street and West George Street, Nelson Mandela Place for its full length, North Frederick Street for its full length, North Hanover Street between George Square and Cathedral Street, Queen Street for its full length, Royal Exchange Square for its full length, Saltmarket for its full length, South Frederick Street for its full length, St Vincent Place between Queen Street and Buchanan Street, Stockwell Place for its full length, Stockwell Street for its full length, the Clyde Arc, fast link lanes, Trongate for its full length, Turnbull Street between Greendyke Street and Steele Street, Union Street for its full length, Victoria Bridge for its full length, West George Street between Hope Street and George Square, Wilson Street between Candleriggs and Hutchison Street. On May 18th, there will also be a prohibition of driving on these roads from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. This means that vehicles will not be allowed to drive on these roads during the specified times, with exceptions made for emergency service vehicles and vehicles granted permission from Glasgow City Council's filming and events section. Additionally, there will be a suspension of bus lanes from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. on May 18th, 2025. The affected bus lanes include Argyle Street, eastbound between Hope Street and Union Street, Glassford Street, northbound between Argyle Street and Ingram Street, North Hanover Street, northbound between George Square and Cathedral Street, Stockwell Street, southbound onto Gobble Street, Victoria Bridge, West George Street at West Nell Street, eastbound to Nelson Mandela Place, Oswald Street, northbound after Midland Street, West George Street and Nelson Mandela Place, eastbound, George Square, south, westbound, after South Frederick Street. These restrictions are being implemented to ensure the safety of the event and other road users. Drivers are advised to plan their journeys accordingly and seek alternative routes during this period. This article was by Amy Miles. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 26th of March 2025 from the news section, and the headline reads, OAP fractured ribs after he was hit by van in Glasgow's Maryhill. This article was by Connor Gordon. A man who ran over a pensioner and fractured his ribs has been fined £340. James Gracie, 41, struck James Brown, 75, in Glasgow's Maryhill on February 17th, 2023. Mr Brown was crossing the road at a junction when Gracie's Renault traffic van hit him. CCTV shown to a court seen the retired joiner and carpenter be propelled down the road as a result. Gracie of Cumbernauld, Lanarkshire, was later heard to say, "I'm sorry," while Mr Brown was being lifted onto an ambulance. Gracie was found guilty at Glasgow Sheriff Court of causing serious injury to Mr Brown by careless driving. The court heard from Mr Brown, who was on his way to give blood before the collision. He said, "I can remember very little. There was a road off Maryhill Road with no traffic lights. There was an island in the middle. Next thing I know, I see the van and I put my right hand up. All I could see was the front of it." Prosecutor Redmond Hannis asked what happened with the van, and Mr Brown replied, "It hit me." He added, "I remember after the van hit me, I don't remember being on the ground. I remember being pushed on a bed in the ambulance. I was going up the ambulance ramp and I heard someone shout, 'I'm sorry.'" Mr Brown stated that he was taken to hospital, where he was found to have suffered multiple rib fractures. The victim said that he was a fit man before the collision, but "I have not been the same since." Sheriff Shona Gilroy disqualified Gracie from driving for 1 year, as well as imposing the fine. This article was by Connor Gordon. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 26th of March 2025 from the news section, and the headline reads, Police tape off Glasgow restaurant following break-in. This article was by Gabriel McKay. A much-loved cafe in Glasgow has suffered a break-in, with police investigating. Sarti's Italian Cafe on Wellingston Street, on the corner with Bath Lane, was closed Wednesday morning, with police in attendance at the scene. The door to the establishment was taped off, with damage to the glass pane on the entrance. A Police Scotland spokesperson said, Around 7 a.m. on Wednesday, 26th of March 2025, officers received a report of a break-in at a premises on Wellington Street, Glasgow. Inquiries are ongoing. SARTI has been contacted for comment. This article is by Gabriel McKay. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 26th of March 2025 from the news section, and the headline reads, Probe launched after 71-year-old man found dead in a vehicle. This article is by Amy Miles. An investigation has been launched after a 71-year-old man was found dead in a vehicle. Officers rushed to Balfour Street, Port Glasgow, on Monday, March 24th, at around 4 p.m, where the man was found dead. Police are treating his death as suspicious, but don't believe it to be suspicious. His family has been made aware. A Police Scotland spokesperson said, around 4 p.m. on Monday, March 24th, 2025, police were called to the vehicle in Balfour Street, Port Glasgow, after a 71-year-old man had been found deceased within. The death is being treated as unexplained, but is not believed to be suspicious. His family is aware. A report will be submitted to the Procurator Fiscal. This article was by Amy Miles.
From the Glasgow Times, Wednesday the 26th of March 2025, from the lifestyle section. Bid for purchase of Prestwick Airport under consideration, by Morgan Carmichael. A bid to purchase Prestwick Airport is apparently under consideration. First Minister John Swinney has confirmed today that a bidder is in talks to purchase the publicly owned airport, which was sold to the Scottish Government for £1 in 2013. The deal came with the intention that the airport would be returned to the private sector after it began to turn a profit, which it has done in recent years. Appearing at the twice-annual Conveners Group at Holyrood on Wednesday, Swinney confirmed that at least one bid is currently under consideration. When asked by Colin Smith, Economy and Fair Work Committee convener, if he's aware of an active offer, the First Minister said, I am. He added, that's a matter that's currently under very active consideration. I cannot quite recall exactly the stage those discussions are at, but if there is more information I can share with the group, I will write to the presiding officer and Mr. Smith on that. But these are very active and live issues at the present moment. Asked if the government still intends to return the airport to private hands, the First Minister said, that's the government's policy intention. And that article was written by Morgan Carmichael and read by Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Wednesday the 26th of March 2025, from the lifestyle section. Free music festival coming to Loch Lomond in Scotland, by Morgan Carmichael. A brand new free musical festival is coming to Scotland this year. Loch Lomond Unplugged, which is designed to showcase talented and passionate buskers and singer-songwriters of all ages, will take place between May the 24th and 25th, between 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. each day. The festival hopes to launch artists whose dream is to be Scotland's next big thing, and will even provide a £1,000 cash prize, as well as the chance for performers to play in front of music industry experts. The festival also promises to be a fun family event which will feature food and market vendors. Hosted by former radio host Jim Geraghty, the festival will also feature sets from Ben Walker on the Saturday and Kyle Faulkner from The View on Sunday. Those who wish to take part in the festival lineup should send a video of one of their performances no later than May the 2nd. The video will be viewed by music industry experts, including Jim and Kyle, and 16 finalists will be picked to perform at the festival on Saturday. Then, through experts and a public online vote, the 16 will become 8. The 8 will then perform again on Sunday, and the winner will be announced at the end of the festival. Full details of how to apply can be viewed online. To get your free tickets to secure your place at the event, visit www.eventbrite.co.uk. And that article was written by Morgan Carmichael and read by Ian. From the Glasgow Times, Wednesday the 26th of March, from the lifestyle section. Glasgow pharmacy technicians win award for work with COPD, by Beth Oliver. NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde's pharmacy technicians have won an award for their work with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, patients. The team received the Innovation of the Year prize for their efforts to prevent hospital admissions by running weekly patient group sessions across GP practices. They were recognised at the Health Board's annual Pharmacy Services Awards ceremony at the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital. The initiative was introduced just over a year ago as part of NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde's winter planning to reduce A&E attendances and hospital admissions for COPD exacerbations. The sessions were successful and are rolled out to other areas, having first been introduced in the south side of Glasgow and now operating across Greater Glasgow and Clyde. The team, led by Fiona Macaulay, pharmacy technician team worker, works closely with multidisciplinary teams and specialist respiratory colleagues. Ms Macaulay said, "The feedback we have received from patients about these sessions has been very positive, and that's what matters most to us. Because COPD can't be reversed, many people feel there are not a lot of options for them. But our sessions empower them to take control of and manage their conditions as best they can. Educating people on ways to stop exacerbations can stop them having to go to A&E or be admitted to hospital, and the peer support element allows them to hear about other people's experiences. We are delighted to have been recognised at the Pharmacy Services Awards, and it is a testament to the dedication of the whole team who run these sessions in addition to the other duties of their jobs. The weekly sessions help educate people on issues such as using their inhalers properly, reducing or quitting smoking, vaccinations, and their options around pulmonary rehabilitation. Patients may also be given rescue medication cards, designed to allow them to access antibiotics and steroids when their GP practice is closed. Professor Chris Carlin, NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde Consultant Respiratory Physician and Clinical Lead at the West of Scotland Innovation Hub, said, "This is a fantastic example of innovative thinking in the primary care sector. Fiona and her team absolutely deserve this recognition. Their enthusiasm has built momentum and support for this initiative, which can bring benefits both to patients and the health service overall." And that report was written by Beth Oliver.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Q and Review and to tell your friends about our service.